1942. Deep in the deserts of New Mexico, under the burning sun, a new kind of weapon was being born, not forged from steel or gunpowder, but from the invisible power of the atom itself. Dozens of the world's brightest scientists, refugees, soldiers, thinkers gathered for one goal: to create a bomb powerful enough to end all wars. They called it the Manhattan Project. Led by General Leslie Groves and physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer, they believed they were racing against Nazi Germany to build the first atomic bomb. But no one truly understood what would happen when man split the atom. The war in Europe was ending. Hitler was dead. But in the Pacific, Japan refused to surrender, fighting island by island, kamikaze by kamikaze. Every American landing meant thousands of deaths. Military planners feared an invasion of Japan could cost over 1 million lives. President Truman wanted the war finished. Oppenheimer wanted the war prevented. But their definitions of peace were very different. The 16th of July 1945, Alamogordo Desert, New Mexico. Before dawn, a countdown echoed through the desert air. 10, 9, 8. At 0, night turned into day. A flash brighter than the sun swallowed the horizon. The ground shook like the earth itself was screaming. In the control bunker, silence followed. Then, Oppenheimer whispered, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." The atomic age had begun. Days later, a coded message reached President Harry S. Truman at Potsdam. The bomb worked. Truman's eyes narrowed as he read the telegram. He turned to his advisors. "We'll use it. Let there be no mistake, we'll end this war." On July 26, Truman issued a warning. Surrender unconditionally or face complete destruction. Japan gave no reply. 5 cities were chosen: Hiroshima, Kokura, Niigata, Kyoto, and Nagasaki. Kyoto was spared too historic, too sacred. The top of the list now read Hiroshima, a city alive with soldiers, factories, and 350,000 civilians, unaware they were marked for history. The first bomb was named Little Boy, a slim uranium bomb never tested before. On Tinian Island, engineers worked under blinding tropical sun, sweating over cables, uranium rods, and detonators. Every bolt mattered. One mistake, and the entire mission could fail. Nearby, a second bomb, Fat Man, was being assembled, this one using plutonium. The 5th of August 1945, Colonel Paul W. Tibbets Jr. gathered his crew. 12 men, trained to perfection, sworn to silence. They named their plane Enola Gay after Tibbets' mother. The crew joked nervously, hiding fear behind smiles. Tibbets looked at them and said quietly, "This mission will change the world. Let's make sure it ends the war." 2:45 a.m., August 6. The Enola Gay thundered down Tinian's runway and disappeared into the darkness. In the bomb bay, Little Boy was armed and ready. 3 weather planes had already left one. Reported back, "Hiroshima skies clear." That sealed the target. 6 hours over the Pacific. Inside the cabin, no one spoke much. Major Thomas Ferriby, the bombardier, kept checking his instruments. Navigator Theodore Van Kirk traced their course in silence. At 31,000 feet, Japan appeared on the horizon. Down below, Hiroshima was just waking up. Children walked to school, workers opened shops, streetcars clattered through the streets. At the military hospital, Dr. Hachia adjusted his coat, unaware his city had minutes left. In a schoolyard, students laughed, pointing at the clear blue sky. 8:15 a.m. Tibbets gave the order. Bombs away. A soft click. Little Boy fell silently toward Earth. It took 43 seconds. Inside the Enola Gay, Ferriby murmured, "God, let it work." Then light. white flash brighter than the Sunday. In an instant, 80,000 souls vanished. The ground boiled. Steel melted. Human shadows were burned into the pavement. At the center, the temperature reached over 1 million degrees Celsius. The city turned into fire. The cloud rose 60,000 feet, glowing red and black, a tower of death reaching into the heavens. Miles away, windows shattered. In Tokyo, radio operators lost all contact with Hiroshima. The city had simply disappeared. Inside the Enola Gay, the crew turned to the windows. A wave of heat washed over them even miles away. Co-pilot Robert Lewis wrote in his journal, "My God, what have we done?" No one spoke again for hours. Hiroshima was a sea of flame. People staggered through ruins, their skin hanging in strips, their eyes white with burns. The rivers filled with bodies, as survivors jumped into the water screaming for help. Children called for their mothers, their voices fading under the smoke. The blast reached miles beyond the center. In villages on the outskirts, people saw the fireball rise. They thought it was the sun falling to earth. Those who survived the blast soon felt sickness, vomiting, fever, hair falling. No one knew it was radiation. Hours later, reconnaissance planes reported, Hiroshima no longer exists. In Tokyo, generals stared in disbelief. Even earthquakes did not erase cities like this. Japan still refused to surrender. Back in Los Alamos, the scientists celebrated. They had ended the war, or so they thought. But Oppenheimer stared out his window. "They'll understand now," he said quietly, "but they'll never forgive us." Despite the destruction, the Japanese War Council argued. Generals wanted to fight to the end. One minister said, "If 10 million must be defending Japan, so be it." Truman gave the order. A second bomb. The new bomb, Fat Man. A different design, heavier, deadlier. The plane Boxcar. Pilot Major Charles W. Sweeney. Bombardier Captain Kermit Bayahan. They would strike again. At dawn, the crew lifted off from Tinian. Their target, Kokura. But smoke from another bombing covered the city. They circled 3 times, burning fuel. Sweeney turned to his co-pilot. "We can't see Kokura. We're going to the secondary." Destination changed Nagasaki. Fuel was low, dangerously low. They had one chance. Sweeney lined up for the drop. Bayahan checked his sights. Bombs away, 11:02 a.m. A second sun erupted above Nagasaki. The fireball expanded, then crushed everything beneath it. The Urakami Valley vanished. Over 40,000 died instantly. Tens of thousands more followed. Hospitals collapsed. Doctors worked in open fields. Priests prayed over ashes. Radiation invisible, merciless, began its slow attack. Within weeks, survivors' skin blistered, teeth fell, fevers raged. No medicine could help. That night, Emperor Hirohito knew there was no hope left. He told his ministers, "We must stop this madness. The nation's survival is at stake." The 15th of August 1945. For the first time ever, the voice of Japan's emperor was heard on radio. "We must endure the unendurable and bear the unbearable. Japan hat surrendert." The war was over. In America, people danced in the streets. In Europe, church bells rang. But in Hiroshima and Nagasaki, silence. The smell of ash lingered in the air. The Enola Gay and Boxcar crews returned to applause and nightmares. Years later, many said they wished they had never looked back at the explosion. Oppenheimer met Truman in the Oval Office. He said quietly, "Mr. President, I feel I have blood on my hands." Truman replied coldly, "Never mind that. The blood's on mine, not yours." They called themselves Hibakusha, explosion-affected people, children who lost everything, doctors who tried to heal with bare hands, priests who buried thousands. They spent decades telling their stories, so the world would remember. The world had seen what one bomb could do, and instead of stopping, it began building more. The nuclear arms race had begun. Oppenheimer once said, "Physicists have known sin, and this is a knowledge they cannot lose." He never built another bomb. Years later, Hiroshima rebuilt. Parks replaced ashes. Schools rose where ruins stood. At the center stands one broken building, the atomic dome left untouched as a warning to all who see it. In Nagasaki, the wooden cross of Urakami Cathedral melted into the ground. It remains there today, a symbol of faith surviving fire. Visitors in Hiroshima still see the shadow of a man burned into stone steps, a permanent reminder of what light can do when used for destruction. When asked later if he had regrets, Oppenheimer looked away and said, "We knew the world would not be the same." Some laughed, some cried, most were silent. By the end of 1945, over 200,000 people were dead, half from the initial blasts, the rest slowly, silently from radiation. 4 years later, the Soviet Union built its own bomb, then Britain, then France, then China. The fire of Hiroshima spread across the world, not in flames, but fear. Power alone cannot bring peace. Humanity learned that progress without conscience is destruction in disguise. Every flash of light now reminds us of those 2 mornings when man became capable of ending himself. August 6 and 9, the days the world changed forever. From the silence of Hiroshima's ashes to the prayers of Nagasaki's survivors, one truth echoes through time: we remember, so it never happens again.